Keenan is a car salesman here at Auto Outlets USA. As part of his work occupation, Keenan socially interacts with many customers, completes sales contracts, and explains and offers warranty services and financing for his customers. Safely getting into and out of cars of all different sizes is crucial to be successful at his job. Today, Keenan is going to demonstrate him opening a car door that he has an appointment on later in the day. The stance phase is when Keenan is standing in front of the car door at a comfortable distance preparing to open it. In this phase, he is stable and balanced in a standing position with his center of gravity approximately anterior to the second sacral vertebrae. The preparatory phase is demonstrated when Keenan begins to bring his right arm up to reach for the car door and form a stable grip around the handle. He is preparing his muscles to generate the force needed to perform the action of pulling open the door. The movement phase, or the action part of the task, is when Keenan grips around the door handle and pulls it to open. Next, the follow-through phase, or the deceleration phase, is when Keenan continues to open the door further as he brings his hand back closer to his body. His velocity of the movement is decreasing as his body prepares to stop the motion. Lastly, the recovery phase is when Keenan completes the motion of pulling open the door. He's preparing to regain balance and remove his hand from the handle in order to start his next movement. While in the stance phase, Keenan is standing upright with his body positioned in front of the car door. He is standing with slight forward head posture. As you can tell, his ear is not in line with his shoulder. If forward head posture is sustained for long periods of time, it will lead to long and insufficient intrinsic flexors as well as overactive extrinsic cervical extensors. Luckily, Keenan has a loving girlfriend that will politely tell Keenan to improve his posture, which will focus on strengthening his deep cervical flexors. In the stance phase, both of Keenan's shoulders begin in adduction. Both elbows are just barely flexed. His right forearm is slightly pronated while his left forearm appears to be in more of a neutral position at his side. In his left hand, he's holding the keys to the car. To stabilize the keys in his hand, digits 2 through 5 have MP, PIP, and DIP flexion. His thumb is not shown in the picture, but as the video continues, you will see the CMC joint of the thumb is palmarly abducting while the MP and IP joints are in extension. His right thumb CMC joint is adducted while his MP and IP joints extended. Digits 2 through 5 on his right hand have slight MP, PIP, and DIP flexion. Preparatory phase shows Keenan's right shoulder flexing and slightly horizontally adducting to reach for the car door handle in front of him. As the motion continues, you can see his right elbow extend as he reaches out, as well as his wrist extend to prepare his hand to grasp the handle. As Keenan reaches for the door, his forearm pronates in order to grip around the top of the door handle. You also notice that digits 2 through 5 go into further flexion at the MP, PIP, and DIP joints to create a hook grasp. His right thumb CMC is palmarly abducted while his thumb MP and IP remain extended. Keenan's left shoulder remains adducted at his side with slight extension just at the end of the preparatory movement. His left elbow remains slightly flexed with his wrist in a neutral position. Again, to stabilize the keys in his hand, digits 2 through 5 have MP, PIP, and DIP flexion. His thumb CMC joint is in slight palmar and radial abduction, while the MP and IP joints are in extension. As Keenan reaches for the handle, his trunk flexes as well as rotates to the side he's reaching with. As he's doing this, you can see he is shifting weight off of his left leg and onto his right. As the pulling process begins, his trunk extends back to a more neutral position. His shoulder starts to extend and slightly abduct to pull the door closer to him. Keenan's right elbow begins the movement phase in full extension, but as he progresses through the movement, becomes slightly flexed. To pull the door handle, Keenan moves his right MP, PIP, and DIP joints of digits 2 through 5 into further flexion. His thumb CMC is in palmar and radial abduction with MP and IP joints extended for the duration of the movement. His right forearm remains pronated through the entire pulling movement phase. Throughout the follow-through phase, Keenan continues to keep his pulling hand digits in composite flexion, other than his thumb, which has CMC palmar and radial abduction with MP and IP joints extended. His wrist remains neutral with his forearm pronated. As he brings his right upper extremity back closer to his body, his elbow flexes, pulling the door closer to him. His right shoulder moves into adduction at his side. As his weight shifts evenly back onto both lower extremities, his trunk returns to a neutral position. His left upper extremity follows his trunk movement, but all joint positions remain the same. Lastly, at the recovery phase, Keenan completes the motion of pulling open the door. Keenan's trunk returns to neutral to regain balance. His right shoulder is in adduction with his elbow flexed about 50 degrees. In the video, Keenan maintains a grasp around the car door handle, but in order to release it, he will extend digits 2 through 5 to continue into his next movement.